Hello everyone, this is part 11 of What If Naruto Had a Hug That Changed Everything, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. 9 AM Chunin exams finale. 3 days, 3 nights, Naruto mused to himself as he meditated deeply while sitting upon his newly favored spot, the unfinished building to the west of Konoha. It wasn't much, but I think I may have gotten a bit of a hold on my new abilities. What do you think, QB? Well, to say that you have not made any headway in the slightest, would be a bull-faced lie. You've done exceptionally well, Kit, considering that you've been swinging solo, QB sincerely admitted. I only wished that I had a little more time to learn a few more jutsu. I wouldn't mind mixing it up a little bit out there. But you forget, you can vary your strategies. With your newly acquired chakra control, the techniques in your current possession can be augmented. All you have to do is get creative. Yeah, you're right, Fox. And I can think of some pretty cool things to do with Kage Bushin right about now. Well, you have adjusted to both your mind and body's upgrade during your 3 days and nights of preparation. HM. Give your peers an event worth remembering, Kit. Oh, I intend to. With his meditation drawing to a close, Naruto slowly opened his eyes and was greeted with the sight of his beautiful village from far atop the large unfinished building. The blonde genin lifted his arms to stretch greatly, crackling, thus relieving the joints of his torso, arms and neck. With his blood-red jacket beside him, Naruto decided that it was time for a good pre-brawl breakfast. Where better to go than Ichiraku? That place effin' rocks. Rising to his feet, the black-clad nin flipped his jacket over his shoulder. With his black, fingerless, hand-plated gloves stashed in his pocket, Naruto jumped off of the building, skeefily hopping and sliding down different parts and such, until he landed promptly upon the ground, kicking up on a very small cloud of dust. Next stop, Ichiraku. Speaking of Ichiraku, within the ramen stand were two people that were an unlikely pair to visit. One being Sakura, who was garbed in her usual little red kimono and black, knee-high shorts. The other being Ino, who sported more casual clothing, her orange t-shirt and comfy blue mid-thigh shorts to be exact. Both females enjoyed the quiet morning of Konoha this day. Sitting beside each other with warm cups of steaming tea in hand, Ino and Sakura have started a conversation about a certain blonde boy who has seemed to have taken a major turn around 2 days ago. Technically, it was Sakura who brought the subject off the ground. They have both been sitting there talking for at least 20 minutes. Why, Ino? Sakura asked rather sadly. The blonde Yamanaka didn't bother to turn her head to her friend as she knew what she was talking about. She remained silent. Why does he, still? The pink-haired kunoichi trailed off in mid-sentence. Ino suddenly harbored a look of faint shame. Sakura, you heard us, didn't you? She asked knowingly. The jade-eyed genin simply lowered her head as a response. For Ino, last night's talk with Naruto cleared up a lot of things. Her conscience for one. Ever since the blonde's first and failed attempt at actually apologizing to the blue-eyed boy, Ino had felt nothing but contempt for herself when she realized how much of a negative part she had been in Naruto's life. The first time he had snapped at her was what set it off. Her heart cracked open, spilling the torrent of shame and a desire for understanding when she saw Naruto walk away from her with fury in his heart. Let's not forget how he spoke to her. Once she realized the pain she had caused for the very last person who deserved it, Ino was filled with so much anger toward herself and a certain pink-haired kunoichi that she could not just sit back and allow her shame to swallow her completely. She was never one to let her negative feelings get the better of her, she just wasn't the kind of person. Determination building in her heart, the young Yamanaka satisfied the urge of ridding herself of these feelings by punishing Sakura for her unforgivable harshness toward Naruto, and punishing herself by taking some furious blows. To Ino, it's what she deserved for what she, herself, had put Naruto through during their childhood. However, as the days rolled by, it seemed that Naruto had caught that vibe. After their mission, The blonde boy complimented Ino about her usefulness on the team, and actually said that if not for her, they wouldn't get anywhere fast. The remote possibility of Naruto forgiving her had swelled in her heart, making her feel lighter and free. The conversation that they had last night only added to this feeling. Flashback out of. Naruto and Ino sat upon the very top of his new favorite resting spot, you'll know what that is. The blue-eyed genin stared sorrowfully at the bawling female sitting next to him. Well, she was sitting next him, until he asked her what he intended on asking her, setting a large gap between them. It was a pure and unsolvable conundrum as to how and when Naruto had developed his backbone. Granted, he always had guts and didn't take anybody's s, but now things were different. He was more sure, more confident, and appeared to be stripped of all hesitation. Naruto considered that he would get his questions answered by the most social female he's ever, and when he asked why the other kids hated him, why they tormented him, why they excluded him from everything, and why they refused to accept him, it tore Ino apart. I'm so sorry. Naruto, Ino shamefully lamented as she curled her index fingers to her eyes, trying to catch the uncontrollable tears that gushed out. For Naruto, with all unrestrained honesty, he always dreamed of nothing else than to see the so-called demons of his troubled past regret everything they'd done to make his life a living hell. He lavished in the fantasies of watching them lament and suffer as much as he did. What the F was he smocking? Watching Ino cry in the agony of guilt wasn't exactly Naruto's morning cup of tea. Each question that he asked was like an vicious attack on her heart, and she cried harder as she desperately searched for the right answers. But honestly, how can you find the right answers to questions like that? Ino's obvious suffering made Naruto ache inside. Despite his change, despite all that has transpired in his miserable life, the black-clad nin just wasn't the type of person to watch people wallow in a pit of agony, just as he did. After staring at the crying blonde female for a moment longer, Naruto willingly closed the distance between Ino and himself, scooching next to her. Sensing the close-in distance through her tear-stained vision, Ino whipped her head to Naruto. Staring into his deep blue eyes for a moment, Ino found herself on the verge of ongoing sobs once again when she saw the look of sadness on his own face. Before that could happen, however, Naruto lifted his hand, and wiped her tears away with genuine affection. Ino, I forgive you. Don't cry anymore, he said with a voice so soothing and comforting that Ino just wanted to cry even more. With her trembling hands only mere inches from her face, Ino continued her sorrowful gaze unto Naruto's softened eyes that were still abstracted by several loose strands of his shaggier hair. Sob. But Naruto, why? I was so rotten to you, she started before a sudden desire to cling overtook her in earnest as she lunged forward and locked her fellow blonde in a crushing embrace. I threw things at you. I was no better than the bastard kids who TD you. I called you names. I turned so many people against you. Ino was slowly silenced by Naruto, who had been soothingly stroking the kunoichi's silky hair to calm her as her head was buried into his shoulder, and it was actually working, little by little. Ino, I forgive you, Naruto sincerely repeated, feeling a phenomenal wave of happiness wash over him having said those words with every bit of truth behind them. Ino slowly looked up at Naruto with more tears than ever, making him worry that she would cry all over again. Naruto, she said with a mix of supreme gratefulness, relief and joy. The young Uzumaki smiled with content at Ino. Besides, what kind of Hokage would I be if I couldn't forgive a childhood grudge? Some things are just far too important, he commented with his well-missed foxy grin. Ino involuntarily gasped as her eyes squinted with tears welling within them again. Oh, Naruto, she shouted before plummeting her head within his shoulder again, sobbing and shedding tears of joy. Naruto's smile seemed to fade a little, but in all honesty, he was happier than ever. Come on, Ino. You're getting my jacket wet, he said while comforting his fellow blonde. After roughly 10 minutes of that, Ino had finally calmed herself and found a comfortable pillow in Naruto, as she rested her head upon his shoulder. The demon vessel stared contentedly at the moonlit sky, contemplating the event a few days from then. His thoughts were interrupted by the voice of Ino. Naruto, can I ask you something? She asked. Sure, he responded simply. Ino lifted herself off of the blonde boy's shoulder and stared at him with mild concern, but mostly curiosity. It's about Sakura, do you still love her? She asked with just a little hesitation. Naruto never took his eyes off of the night sky. Of course I do, he answered without hesitation. Well, that was a shock to Ino's system. Even after all that he was put through because her, like most other kids, Naruto easily admitted that his feeling for the pink-haired kunoichi had not withered up and SD. It was unbelievable. What? You've forgiven her too? When? Ino continued. When she woke me up, Naruto responded. This statement only brought up more questions than answers, but before Ino could respond, Naruto continued. As much as I loved her, I was far too selfish to see that those feelings would never be returned. I was so hard-headed, so persistent, that I didn't realize it was only destroying any chance we could ever have of being together in the long run. I was desperate for her. Ino's eyes began to glisten. Naruto, she trailed, before he continued. The kiss from a couple of days ago only added to that problem, and ultimately woke me up. In general, I can't stop loving Sakura. I don't know why. I just can't. Even if that love will never be returned and she hurt more than anyone could know, the least I can do is stay out of her way so she can find true bliss. That's when I'll really be happy, and live with no regrets. End flashback out of. Why does he so much for me? Why does he still care? Sakura asked, remembering the truth and sincerity behind Naruto's words. If it wasn't 3 hours past my curfew, I would have asked him that myself, but I don't deserve him, Sakura admitted. He's too good for me. Hearing this, Ino shot a disbelieving glare at her pink-haired friend. Really? So that's it, huh? You're just gonna give up? Sakura turned her head to face Ino, staring at her with slight confusion. Don't look at me like I'm some kind of freak. Are you really just gonna sit there and let him get away from you, Sakura? Ino pressed forward. You heard him with your own 2 ears, right? He still loves you. Don't you love him back? For the most part, Sakura felt as though she had been struck down. How did she feel about Naruto at this point? Even after all that has happened between them, could she accept an old flame reigniting? More importantly, can she forgive herself for what she had done? I don't know. I don't know anything anymore, the emerald-eyed genin admitted. The Sakura's sudden irritation, Ino scoffed. Geez. What happened to the brave Sakura that I saw at the Forest of Death? What happened to the little bulb that blossomed into a beautiful rosé? Or do you think Naruto's become so hot that you're not good enough for him? She said with a mocking smirk. Sakura quickly frowned. What? I never said that, she protested. Ino's smirk became more blatant. Oh, so you're saying that you're a little L, now? A L who can't talk to boys, she mocked further, unable to retain an enthused snicker. This time, Sakura glared at her blonde friend. What the hell? Don't give me any that. I could talk to Naruto if I wanted to, she strongly proclaimed. Ino rolled her eyes. Sure, but can you return his affections? She challenged, causing Sakura to flinch back. Or will you chase after Sasuke-kun? Now the pink-haired kunoichi was at a loss. Not only was she conflicted with a flame that burned again for Naruto, but, until Ino mentioned it, she had completely forgotten about Sasuke. With the black-haired Uchiha back in her thoughts, Sakura was swallowed with a level of doubts that would have destroyed a lesser person. Naruto had put up with all of her petty insults, mockeries, physical attacks and all of her bulls, and yet he treated her like a goddess among women, with no regrets nor the slightest hints of giving up. Sasuke on the other hand. Yeah. Now she's stuck. HMPH. Just as I thought, you're gonna L out of it. And here I thought talking to Naruto was easy for you, Ino mocked again, snapping Sakura out of her thoughts. Shut up, Ino. Does the truth hurt that bad, Sakura? Or is it the fact that you really don't want to return that love? Maybe you. I said shut up, Sakura howled. Just because Naruto said he still loved me doesn't make it true. Ino's smile vanished, replacing it with a serious stare. So you're calling him a liar, she suggested. Wah. No. Hey, you were the smartest at the academy, Sakura, the best. But I guess that was only at school, if you're too stupid to see what's right in front of you. These words burned at Sakura's heart, making her more angry than sad. Why, you ask? Well, consider the fact that Ino was so right in her own way. Sakura's cheeks reddened with both embarrassment and anger. What the hell are you getting at? She said in a surprisingly more subdued tone. Exactly how it sounds, Sakura. You've grown afraid of Naruto now that you've woke him up, and you don't know how to apologize, much less return his unaffections. Admit it, Ino said confidently. Shut up. I could talk to him if I wanted to. I'm not afraid, and if he were to show up right here, it'd make no difference, Sakura retorted with angry conviction. Ino gave an unnerving snicker. Oh yeah. Prove me wrong, then. Mornin' lass, greeted a familiar voice that signified the apocalypse for Sakura. Am I interrupting something? Sakura froze in place. It couldn't have been him. The timing was far too unfair. Why? Why did it have to be now? She dared not look behind her to find out. Oh, Naruto. No, you're not interrupting anything. Come on and sit with us, Ino happily invited, while inwardly getting a kick out of the look of petrified horror on Sakura's face. Naruto easily obliged and pulled up a seat, right next to Sakura. The pink-haired female straightened her position in the stood and leaned forward on the counter, her eyes shrouded behind her glossy hair. Hi, Naruto, she actually managed to squeak out, much to Ino's surprise and entertainment. Before Naruto actually called for his usual order of ramen, he sensed something amiss. Sakura. Everything okay? He asked with his naturally given concern. As a reflex regrettably beyond her control, Sakura outwardly trembled as her body tensed. She began sweating profusely as she struggled to seek the strength necessary to form words, but she remained silent, inwardly gawking at what was happening. How? Why? Why does he still talk to me? Why does he not capture me? Why is he so good to someone like? Actually, there's something that's been on Sakura's mind and she wanted to talk to you about it, Ino stated, not only snapping Sakura out of her thoughts, but deepening the pit of sheer desperation she was stuck in. Naruto was somewhat interested now. As Sakura turned her head to face her, Ino smirked haughtily, expecting a glare that she was all too used to, only to get a teary-eyed expression that begged for mercy. Blown back by Sakura's face, Ino's smirk vanished without a trace, harboring a look of concern. However, the more dominant side of the blonde female wanted Sakura to stop being ill and own up for what she had done to Naruto, and now was the ideal time. Something on your mind, huh? What's up, Sakura? The shaggy-haired blonde asked with more curiosity. Oh yeah, the writing was on the wall. Now. Sakura readjusted her stare back to the counter, clenching her teeth. Before any one of them knew it, a full minute passed by, before Sakura finally breathed. Naruto, she uneasily began. Yeah, he responded while still staring at her in wonder as to what she had to say. Sakura hesitated more than ever, her already shaky resolve waning greatly. Naruto, I. She froze. Naruto tilted his head and opened his mouth to say something before Sakura shot to her feet. I have to go, she blurted out before running off, leaving a confused and depraved blonde boy staring at her vanishing form. Meanwhile, atop the Hokage monument, two shadowed figures sat beside one another staring off into a certain direction. Well Nekoshi, it seems that Sensei was wise in choosing the boy. Don't get too excited, Kitsune. The Chunin exams start in 3 hours. We cannot make any assumptions until we see what he can really do. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.